Ultimate Tour Stage 3 from 2015 continues now with our guest, Andrew Talansky. Just before the break, we saw that awful crash in the peloton. In fact, so bad that the race literally stopped so everybody could regroup. Andrew, let's go back 5 years ago. What do you remember about that moment?
I remember it super vividly. It was probably, in hindsight, the most insane, aside from my very first tour in 2013 on the very first stage when the banner fell down. I think that was the most insanity I've ever experienced in a race. It was pretty standard. I mean, you knew it was going to happen. We were just coming down to the smaller roads. We were on a massive wide road. Well, by Tour de France standards, a pretty wide road. You didn't need to brake. You know, it was like you could just pedal, but you're getting up to like 80K an hour probably around there. And then we went a little faster after that crash happened. But it was just warp speed, and we were the crash started on the right, and we were kind of tucked in the middle, not to the left side. So we had a pretty solid view of it. And I don't think any of our guys went down. Like, I don't think me, Dan, or Ryder went down. And it was like an explosion.
How difficult was it for you at that position in the middle to avoid it and to stay on your bike?
I mean, with the obvious exception of the 2014 Tour de France, I felt like I had a lot of good luck in the Tour, avoiding crashes like in 2013 and 2015. And I don't know. I mean, it's just your instincts, you know, you kind of, maybe like they say in race car driving, you pick a line and you aim there and you hope for the best. You know, you have no control if a bike's going to fly and hit you or anything else. But I mean, obviously, if you're right behind the person who goes down, there's zero you can do. But thankfully, we had a little buffer.
Okay, so you avoid disaster of that major crash, but what effect does it have on you mentally as you try and get back into the race?
That's a really interesting question. I'd love to hear the answer from like 100 different bike racers, you know, to just see how everybody processes it. Unfortunately, I think you become kind of numb to it while you're in the sport for so long, especially in the Tour de France. You know that crashes are going to happen. You just hope it's not your teammates or you. Some of them are avoidable, some of them aren't. You kind of, you know, the Tour de France, it's interesting. It's in July, so you've been racing since January or February, so you've seen plenty of crashes, hopefully avoided them, but you've kind of mentally calibrated yourself to just, you know, scan quickly for your teammates and listen to the radio and see if anybody important is down, and you just keep on going. But it is weird. I mean, that one was really shocking, and then there was another one that no television camera helicopter caught because I think they were all stuck on that one. Probably 30 seconds to a minute later, going the same speed. I don't know exactly what caused that, but I was pretty close to it on the left-hand side of the road, just boom, into like a wall and a pile of dirt. A few guys went. I think Rigoberto Urán was in that one. And then shortly right after that, you know, we heard, okay, they're going to, you like, just stop pedaling, stop the race for a bit.
Right. And I would imagine most of the guys are thinking some version of the same thing. As you're kind of slowed down and regrouping and the race, as I mentioned, literally stops, do you talk to the guys next to you at all about like, whoa, did you see that?
Yeah. You know, we stop, but nobody, I mean, this just explains a lot of, you know, cycling in a nutshell. We were told the race was stopped, but people were going around the commissaire's car. Nobody knew if it was really stopped. And like this massive crash had happened. There were no more ambulances available is what we were told later. So like if another big crash had happened, they wouldn't have been able to take care of us. And that's why the race had to stop. It wasn't the crash was so bad. It was that they ran out of ambulances and medical personnel in that moment. And they had to get more and regroup. But in that moment, you're just like, oh, I need to be near the front because we still have a bike race to do, you know, and you're hearing the race is stopped, it's not stopped, and guys just start going around the commissaire car, and you're just like, this is insane. But then they say go, and you proceed to do the exact same thing again.
I heard you say a moment ago that as you're taking inventory, you kind of look around to see, as you said, to see if anybody, you know, major or important went down, basically. And I'm kind of summarizing there, paraphrasing, but Fabian Cancellara in the yellow jersey, he did go down. Did you look around and realize that, hey, the race leader is not with us anymore?
No, I think they told us on the radio. I mean, there's so many guys even when they stop the race, you're looking around, you don't know exactly, you know, I didn't get a super clear image of everybody who went down. I might've seen Fabian go down, but I think on the radio before we restarted, we heard that Fabian was out. And I mean, it's just wild. You just hear it and you process it and you say, okay, yeah, we still, we have a race to try to win for Dan Martin, so let's keep going.
Yes. As for that race that you're continuing to go on to now, it was all building toward this climb that got a lot of attention before the stage started because it had never been used in the Tour. I mean, we all know about the Tourmalet and Alpe d'Huez. They're used so often, but Mur de Huy, for the first time, shows up in the Tour, and it's incredibly steep, a couple of kilometers long. What was that one like?
It's just really steep. It's the kind of climb I always struggled with, kind of the shorter, punchier climbs. I could never get into a rhythm. You just needed that super, super kind of 5-minute, really high-end effort, which Dan is amazing at. And, we just tried to set him up to start near the front. And I'm pretty sure shortly heading up that climb, I probably started drifting backwards. So I couldn't tell you what the front of the race looked like.
As for your expectations, not only on the stage, but on this entire tour, I'm guessing they were pretty high. And we back up here a little bit. 2012, top 10 at the Vuelta. 2013, you finished 10th at the Tour. In 2014, you won the Dauphiné, which for a lot of people is how they get a read on what kind of form the riders are in. But then you crashed out that year for the Tour. So here we are in 2015. You finished 10th before, apparently better than you were at that point. What were your expectations?
To be honest with you, I was just hoping, I felt even going into that tour that the best I could do was maybe a top 10. I don't know, you could go back and look what the team said. Teams always try to spin it, but the reality was I had a pretty abysmal start to 2015. Just not performing the way I wanted to. May is a pretty crucial month for the Tour de France. I had dropped out of the Tour of California on the very first day. I was just sick and had a upper respiratory infection kind of brought on by the allergies in May in that area. Obviously in the future, we kind of finally got that under control. But that year was still a problem area for me. And then I won the US Pro Time Trial, which was really nice and everything, like 10 days after, getting sick and not being able to ride my bike for a week. But it was not how you prepare for the Tour de France. That's just not how you prepare for the Tour de France starting in November. And when you get to May and June, those are really crucial months, especially May, I think, for me at least. And it had just been an absolute disaster. So I raced Dauphiné. That didn't go exceptionally well. We kept rushing me back to racing. So I actually came out of Dauphiné with a recurrence of the exact same illness that I had in California. Obviously, we didn't tell anybody that. I was quiet. And it just felt like a struggle because the reality of professional cycling is everybody's on such a high level that you have to know that you've crossed all the T's, dotted all the I's, and done everything you can for months on end. A few weeks of good training isn't going to get you a result. I
think you found your way to 11th.
Yeah, we ended up 11th, so just outside that top 10, obviously. Came as close as I ever got to winning a stage in that race. I don't remember what day that was, but so yeah, I mean, it wasn't a terrible tour, but it also wasn't an overly successful one.
I mean, the result sounded okay, but that buildup, the way you personalized what you were feeling leading up to it, it sounds pretty bleak. How did you find your way to 11th place?
I would honestly just credit it to the one thing with me is when I got to a race, especially the Tour, I mean, you can always pull something out of yourself. And the thing I learned from 2013 when I ended up 10th and I had lost time on one day and then got it all back in a break and ended up third on the stage another day is I was like, you don't give up. The Tour de France, especially more than any other race, crazy things happen in it. So you just keep trying, right? You don't ever throw it out the window. And if you can end up top 10, that's a result for the team. If you can be up there on stages, that's a result for the team. And the team was pretty desperate for results that year. So it was, I think you just switch on. You say you arrive at the start line, and thankfully I got there healthy. And, despite all that, I, obviously remained healthy through the whole race. And for whatever reason, my body is usually, as long as I come in, fresh enough and the right and 100% healthy, I get better over 3 weeks, no matter how I come in for the most part.
Hey, you battled your way through, and to finish 11th is awfully impressive. As long as you mentioned that you didn't think top 10 was realistic for you, who did you think was the strongest rider going into that tour?
Yeah, Chris, like there was no question in my mind. Like everybody knew that Froome that was it. There was, I mean, I don't remember who else was even up there that year, but I think that was already into the era where you knew as long as Froome showed up at 100%, nobody was going to touch him. So,
do you think he's still, I mean, if he's healthy, is he still that guy?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because we've never gotten to see like Egan Bernal and Chris Froome climb with each other. I think what everybody forgets is that Chris Froome at his best climbing leaves Nairo Quintana behind. He leaves Alberto Contador behind. He leaves the guys who are the best pure climbers in the sport behind, who were the best pure climbers. Nairo still is. So they forget it's like he can time trial, but he is also truly one of the best climbers in the world. He's not a time trialist who can diesel his way up a climb and needs it controlled. I mean, go back to the 2013 tour, go back to probably in 15, he'd launch these attacks on kind of the first mountain stages and just blow people out of the water. And I'd love to see Egan Bernal and him go head to head. I mean, they're on the same team, so I don't know if that'll happen. I hope it does. But I think now he's still, if he's, I don't know what his recovery's like. I don't know how all that is, but if he's recovered 100% and he shows up at the start line 100%, he's still Chris Froome. He's one of the best riders in the world. So yeah, he's still him.
But it's not only going to be Egan and Chris going at it on the same team. I mean, Geraint Thomas is on that team too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was just kind of more referring to the pure climbing. I mean, Geraint is incredible. I mean, you win the Tour de France, you're an incredible bike racer. I think even Geraint himself would say it. He's certainly not a pure climber. I think he's someone who more uses that kind of strength, and that he certainly has punch, probably from his track days, but he's not kind of, I don't think, in the pure climber in the sense that Nairo Quintana, Contador, Bernal, and the way Froome has shown in the past. That can always change, but that's, I mean, there's three of them, so we'll see.
Right. Yeah. That's top story to keep an eye on with Ineos, with Froome, Bernal, and Thomas, to see how that one plays out.